Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dog Days of July meeting of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. It's not cold outside, is it? So, hey, the good news is 2 nights running, been able to image. Of course, it's been hotter than sin. It's supposed to be pretty decent up till I think Friday or Saturday. But a big welcome to the July meeting. Should be pretty interesting. So tonight's agenda, of course, our typical meeting. We'll have our welcome. Bruce Campbell's going to talk about meteor showers. It's a busy time for that. Then we'll have a break. Then we'll have our esteemed What's in the Sky guy, Bill Hall, chat with us for a little while. We'll talk about our monthly business stuff and finish up and maybe go to the World of Beer. It's a Constellation down the street. So, next slide, please. Okay. Do we have any visitors here today, online or in person? Well, welcome. And you are?
I'm a member. This is my son in his role, Andrew.
Welcome. Glad you're here. So, the Fort Worth Astronomical Society has been around for 70 years or so. We have about 100 and, what's the count, John? About 160 now, 70 right now, members? 201. Okay, we have 201 members. I thought we had a peak, but, oh, okay. Correction, we have 201 members for one more day, and then things start to drop off. It's typical for the summertime. Not to give anything away that I'll chat about later, but I think that number is going to swell exponentially in the October timeframe. We are one of the oldest and the largest clubs in the country. We have quite a wide band of interest, from observational to terrestrial photography to imaging and some photometry, all kinds of good stuff. And we all like to talk, and we all like to help. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask, because you'll get an answer pretty quickly. And we are a nonprofit, which means we gladly accept donations, and they are tax deductible. Next slide, please. New member is Chandler here today. Welcome. And so, I'm sorry? Joined last month. Someone joined today and paid cash. Pardon? Oh, as a renew. I saw cash, my eyes bugged out. Hey, you know how it is. I give my kid he was up this past week, he wanted some money. I gave him a $100 bill, and he said, "What is it?" See, kids. Next slide, please. Okay, we two visitors here this evening. And if you're interested, of course, the young man back there in the corner with the baseball cap on is John Geronimi, and he'll be happy to help you join if you would like. Next slide, please. So, we had elections last month, so I'm going to introduce your board and your new members. My name is Bob Sirkis. I'm the president of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. Bill Hall, back here, is the vice president, who does a tremendous job building these presentations for us, and we've done a lot of work under Bill's tutelage to get our agenda and the format of our presentations much smoother. John Geronimi, our treasurer, last year of fifth year tour duty. So Monica Merritt's not here. She's on holiday. She's our secretary. And Phil Stage is one of our directors. Jim Potts, I don't see him here today. Is he online? Jim Potts is a new director, and he is the associate treasurer. So he's learning how to be treasurer. So there's a retirement in the works. Bruce Campbell behind me is a director. Ted Smith is a new director. And our esteemed legal counsel, Cy Simonson, who, like me, is getting older and having difficulty lifting arms. So that's your board. If you have any questions, concerns, or want to yell at somebody or whatever, you can hit us up. So we have several key groups that are very important. We have development committee who plan and are planning how to build out our dark sky site, the Rising Star Observing Area. Michelle Thiessen, who I don't see here this evening. Tom Roth is not here either. Robin Pond is here. And Jim McCatherine, is he online? Jim McCatherine's a cool cat. He tremendously helpful. He is an architect, and he's an astronomical architect. So he's coming in quite handy. And Bruce Campbell is just a super key contributor on the group. He helps organize and get our observing area, keep it maintained. Public outreach, I don't see John here this evening. But Patrick, I know I saw you. Patrick McMahon is our outreach coordinator. He has, it's a challenging job. His role is to manage and get people to do events for us. And John takes care of Tandy Hills. We do a monthly stargazing event at Tandy Hills. And if you're new and you have new equipment, that's a great place to go to learn how to use your telescope. Palo Pinto Mountain State Park, it's a partnership we are with, and Tom Roth takes care of that for us. Some really cool stuff going on here. The Thompson Observatory is a full observatory in Keene, Texas, Bortle 4, owned by the Southwest Adventist University. We are partnering with them. They have a domed 10-inch TMB refractor. It's a pretty cool place. Some of Christian's been out there a couple of times. I don't know if anybody else here has, but I have some exciting news about that to tell you. So the volunteer manager of Thompson is Jerry Becker, and we'll talk more about this is going to change, and it's good and exciting news. George Lutch takes care of our website. We're in the process of moving the website from its current host onto Google, and we hope to have that done in the next couple of 3 months. So we're working through that. And lastly, Bill Hall, as mentioned, takes care of getting presenters for our meetings, and he does just a hell of a job. And John Geronimi takes care of membership too, and donations. Next slide, please. What I don't see, so the chit-chat about Thompson should go later.
Oh, yeah. You mean announcements?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of monthly reports there.
Okay, awesome. Well, Mr. Bruce Campbell is going to talk to us about how to watch a meteor shower. So it should be very interesting. Looking forward to it. Here you go, Bruce.
Thank you.
And you have a narrow field of view here.
Here.
Let's see, that's just
Okay. Setting my materials up in the right place. Always know your limits. Well, good evening. My name is Bruce Campbell, and it's my pleasure to bring you tonight's presentation. It's my, okay. All right. Well, good evening. How does this sound? Oh, I'm looking at a blue light. Closer. Oh, wow. Great. Well, good evening. Once again, my name is Bruce Campbell, and I'm going to bring you tonight's presentation on how to enjoy a meteor shower. I first got involved in astronomy when I was a very young child, and my parents took me to the savings and loan to open a savings account. I got a map of the solar system that the savings and loan gave me, and that ended up on my bedroom wall for years, and I enjoyed it. It was a great introduction to the world that was bigger than what I realized. But shortly after that, I learned that meteors were a real thing, and if you went outside on certain periods, certain nights of the year, you could see meteors, and that's what I did. I'd sit in a lawn chair and promptly fall asleep, but at least I made the effort, and I've been a big proponent of watching meteors ever since. Now, skip ahead a couple of decades, and I had the time and the resources to get back into the astronomy hobby. So I bought an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain, a 4-inch refractor, and then I had aperture fever, and I bought a 15-inch Dob, and I just went crazy. But I really enjoyed being in the dark sky site, essentially looking at deep sky objects and learning my constellations, and also watching the meteor showers. Also, we did want to put in a plug for the Astronomical League. They have many different kind of observing programs, and back then in 2006, I earned the Lunar Club Award for identifying and observing 100 different objects on the moon. And I think that's a great program for anyone getting involved in astronomy, is go out to the Astronomical League, find something that's interesting to you, because they have, I'm guessing, hundreds of different observing programs. And let's go to the next slide, if you don't mind. And if you follow the rules and go through the process, you can earn an award like this. I got mine in July of 2006. And I also received this nice lapel pin. So that's currently bedazzling my collar. But I found that right before I came here tonight, so I thought, man, I'm going to put this in the presentation. Because the AL does do a great job, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but if you're a member of FWAS, aren't you a member of the Astronomical League? And that's a thumbs up. So yeah, by the dues that you pay, you can be involved in the Astronomical League. So that's my commercial for tonight. So let's go to the next slide. So meteor astronomy is kind of interesting. They've got 3 terms for the same space rock. If it's actually out in outer space, it's a meteoroid. It's related to the asteroids, so it's part of the oid family. So whenever you think of oids, you're always thinking about in space. But meteoroids they run from about 330 miles in diameter down to a meter, and that's where the meteoroids take over. They're about 1 meter in diameter down to, I think it's 2 millimeters, and those are meteoroids. And if it gets smaller than 2 millimeters, which is what, 1/8 of an inch, they go into the micrometeoroid category. But that's one definition. And they just float around space, maybe not as closely gathered as those, but that's what meteoroids do day in and day out. Meteors are meteoroids that are currently passing through the Earth's atmosphere. Many times we don't see many of them as they fly through burn up through the atmosphere, but if they do create a stream of ionized light, we see them, and they're meteors. And then if one does make it through the atmosphere and survives what they call the meteor phase, then it is a meteorite. It's the same rock in all 3 stages, but they have different names for it. But it helps us understand when people are talking about where we're talking, whether space or Earth or in the atmosphere. Okay, next slide. So where do all these meteoroids come from? Well, there's 2 major sources. One are from comets that orbit the sun. So as the comets go through their orbit, they do eject ice and dust out of their nucleus, the core of the comet. So NASA figured out that was happening, so they developed a space probe to go up there and take pictures of that, and they saw what they say is geysers of carbon dioxide that break apart part of the comet and eject that into space. So these are sizes of basketballs and up to small cars that are being broken apart from the comet. And what happens is these ice and dust particles stay in the orbit of the comet until they interact with something else in space or become meteors as they pass through our atmosphere. Another way that comets help populate the asteroid population is fragmentation. The comet, for some reasons at least I don't understand, but they start to break apart. And what's shown in this picture is a 3-day picture from Hubble telescope showing comet 73P starting to disintegrate or fragment, and then each of those larger fragments were then breaking up into smaller meteoroids, and again, they populate the area around the orbit of the comet. So let's go to the next slide. So another source for meteoroids is actually asteroid collisions, and I didn't find any asteroid collision illustrations to show you, so I was going to tell you about the DART, NASA's DART program, where they actually built a spacecraft to crash into Dimorphos, the asteroid on the left. But it wasn't until I picked up my reference book that I had, and on the cover, there's a meteoroid collision, which I thought was pretty funny because it was sitting on my desk the entire time I was pulling this PowerPoint together. Thank you. But back up to the presentation, Dimorphos is, I think it's 525 miles across in diameter. Is that right? I think that's right. So it's fairly large, but it's actually a moon to another asteroid that's going around. And as they had the spacecraft move in to do the crashing into the asteroid, it was taking pictures. So we actually get a close-up view of the surface of Dimorphos. And you can see that it's just a collection of rocks and dust that are held together just with gravity. There's no cement up there. There's no putty up there. This is just gravity holding things together. So if there's a collision, these smaller pieces will break off, and those then become asteroids. And so go to the next picture. Next slide, thank you. So this is a sequence taken by a telescope at the University of Hawaii, and it shows Dimorphos prior to the collision, and then right after the DART spacecraft collides with it. And then the third image is the post-collision result. And you can see by the dusty areas around there, that just shows you that the meteoroid did suffer a collision, and it generated quite a bit of dust and rocks up in its orbit. And so those could be meteoroids or they could be meteors that come visit Earth sometime in the future. Okay, next slide. There's also different classes of meteors. You have your standard meteor that most people see when they go out either in their backyard and they see a meteor, or they have such things that are called fireballs, which are much brighter and longer lasting than the normal meteor. Most people have only seen fireballs, and they range in size from a basketball to a small car. But the largest meteors that they have are bolids that are even brighter and more massive than fireballs. And very few events are really bolids, although you'll hear that word tossed around quite a bit. The picture is the bolid in Chelyabinsk in Russia. And they're telling us that the image is actually, the brightness of the explosion was about 3 times the brightness of the sun. So when one of these explode in the air, it'll produce a sonic boom, and it'll be very bright. It's hard not to see it. This bolide, when it exploded, the sonic boom then broke many windows in the town, and many people were injured from broken glass. Let's go to the next slide. So this is an interesting slide. While pulling together for the presentation, I learned that in order for a meteoroid to enter the Earth's atmosphere, it has to have a relative motion with respect to the Earth of 11.2 kilometers per second. If it's not going that fast, it's going to stay under the sun's influence and not enter our atmosphere. However, so that's the minimum speed, and the maximum speed of most asteroids is 73.6. And so the speed of meteors really depends on where the meteor interacts with the Earth. If they're up ahead of the Earth and the Earth then runs into it, because it's tooling along at 30 kilometers per second. And I guess I should also mention that 11.2 kilometers per second doesn't sound very fast. But if you convert it to miles an hour, it comes in at 25,000 miles per hour. That's hauling. That's faster than I would think. So and the Earth speed around the sun is 30 kilometers per second, which turns out to be like 65,000 miles per hour. So they're going pretty good. So meteoroids in front of the Earth and its rotation around the sun can easily catch up to many of the asteroids, and they would become fast asteroids that enter the Earth atmosphere. But if there's meteors residing in behind the Earth, they'd have to be going extremely fast to catch up with the Earth as it rotates around the sun. And that's why you see slow meteors in the early evening and faster meteors and more meteors ahead in the early morning right before sunup. I also found a reference that revealed the asteroid speeds and meteoroid speeds in meteor showers. And what I could tell is the Leonids were really the fastest at 71. The Perseids come in at 60, and the Geminids at 35 kilometers per second. And sometimes it might be difficult to remember how the meteor speeds relate to each other. But if you think about a car traveling down the road during the summer, and compare the windshield in the front compared to the windshield in the back, it's the windshield in the front that it receives all the bug impacts, and the windshield in the rear, not so much. So just like in Earth, as it's orbiting the sun, we see quite a few more fast meteors in the early morning hours than we do in the early evening hours. All right, next slide. So they have something that's called sporadic meteors, and these are meteors that are not tied to any particular meteor shower. And if you go outside on any particular day, you can probably see 3 sporadic meteors per hour in the early evening on any given night on a dark sky site when it's cool. Forget the cool part. But in the morning, that doubles or triples up to 6 or 9 meteors per hour. So there are asteroids out there that get swept up from time to time. And also, there are seasonal variations to that. There's a minimum in March, which reflect the numbers I gave you above. And that meteor rate increases up into September when it essentially doubles. And then it starts to drop off through the remainder of the fall into winter and then back to March. So there is a seasonal variation of sporadic meteors for reasons I particularly don't know. But let's talk about the tail of the meteor. So the hallmark tail, the one that we see when we go out to the dark sky sites, it's really a trail of ionized air molecules. And if the meteor is large enough, and we'd actually start to see vaporized colors from elements in the meteoroid. You can see these colors ranging from purple, yellow, orange, green, and red, and these are associated with these elements. So when you're out there and you do see a green meteoroid, you know you're looking at you do see a green meteor. It's probably because that meteor had a high concentration of nickel in it. And then they're also telling us that meteor speeds also play an important role. The faster meteors that come in, they normally appear blue or bluish white, and the slow meteors are range back into the red or the orange trails. Okay? So it turns out when you're looking up in the skies and you're trying to figure out, that meteor I saw, I wonder how far up it was. Well, it actually took place somewhere between 25 miles above the above the surface up to about 63 miles above the surface. The white dots indicate from a NASA project of where the ionized trails began, and then without connecting the dots, they also put in the endpoints where the meteor burned out. So many of them are short, some of them are medium length, and a few of them are long meteors. But the bottom line is nearly all the meteors do burn out before they get any lower than 25 miles above the surface. And to put that in perspective, normal commercial airliners fly somewhere between 6 to 7 miles above the surface for the international flights. Military planes can fly above 10 miles. The SR-71 has the supposed high altitude record of 15 miles. So you can see they're still way below the 25 miles. However, the ISS, the space station, it's up at 254 miles. And so to counteract the possible impact with meteoroids, they have a 1-inch thick protective metal surface protecting them from the impacts of the meteoroids, because that is an issue. All right. And so some meteors do reach Earth, and over time, there have been several meteor craters that we know about. And there's an Earth impact database that have confirmed 190, and they call them impact structures, because everything is not a crater any longer. But as you can see from this crater in their picture off their website, that's a meteor crater up in Quebec province in Canada. But it's a fantastic website. So go Google Earth Impact Database. It's got quite a bit of information on impact craters. Could probably do more, but provide you more information, especially on the picture side. But they do talk about the 3 meteor craters in Texas. I've been to the one in Odessa, the meteor crater there. If you happen to be driving through, I'd recommend you stop. I'm not sure it's a destination point, but it's worth the time to pull off the road to go see it. So meteors also have a tendency to hit homes. Of course, I'm joking, but these are the documented cases where meteoroids have hit homes, penetrated the roof, and either have struck people or just crashed onto the floor. And the most well-known is the 1954 case where a woman was napping in the afternoon in Alabama, and this meteor right here in the top picture, it came crashing through and struck her while she was sleeping on the couch, and then bounced around the room before it came to rest. They couldn't figure out what it was. They thought it might have been from the quarry where they're doing some dynamiting. But when they went to ask, they said, oh no, we haven't been doing any of that today. And oh, by the way, there was this big bright light in the sky and this big boom. So it all points to that meteor came through that house and walloped that woman. Smithsonian tells a better story than I do. So go look up 1954, Alabama, and woman hit by meteorite, and read that story and see the pictures, because it really is an interesting study. Now, several people have said they've been hit by meteors, but they lack the proof. This woman had the proof, and and others have too, like in the second case in 2021, where a woman was sleeping and a meteorite penetrated the roof and landed on the pillow next to her. So she was very lucky there. And then earlier this year, a meteor crashed through the roof in Hopewell, New Jersey. Fortunately, nobody was home, and it wasn't until they got home and saw the hole in their roof and found that rock sitting on the floor did they know what happened. And then just last week, there was a woman in France having coffee with a friend, and a meteorite struck her roof, then bounced and hit her because they were out on the patio. She recovered the meteorite and took it to the authorities, where they analyzed it and said they thought it was a meteorite. They didn't have any pictures on the news that I saw, but it does happen. So it's very interesting. Okay, next slide. And so we talked about the sporadic meteors that are out there. So you can go out and see anywhere between 3 and 10 meteors per hour per night. But when you get into a meteor storm, the numbers jump up quite a bit, and that's what makes a meteor storm. You just see more meteors per hour than you normally would, and that's because there's a collection of meteoroids in space in such a location that when the Earth swings by, it picks them up. And most of these are typically trucking, so they're going in pretty fast. Like we talked about the Leonids earlier, traveling at 71 kilometers per hour. They are streaming across the skies. And some meteor showers have been around for centuries. Perseids, which is coming next month, was first documented roughly 20 years ago in the Chinese records. Okay. So one other definition I want to get to, and that has to do with the radiant. So this is the point in the sky from which the meteors appear to be coming from. It's not obvious to me that that's ever the case when I'm out looking for meteors during a meteor storm. This is a picture I took out at Star Ranch when the tall Hercules meteor storm was supposed to happen, and all I caught was a handful of these short meteors that are pictured at about 7 o'clock. Everything else is a PowerPoint mark just to illustrate the radiant. However, when I was at Rising Star, it was about midnight, and I was about to set up my camera for the meteor shower that was about to happen, because it was just barely above, the radiant was just barely above the horizon, and there were 3 meteors, just one after another, and it was very obvious where the radiant was, because the meteors happened so quickly. Okay. So looking ahead, these are the big meteor showers that remain on the calendar for this year. Starting with the Perseids, it starts July 14th and ends September 1st. And so, my gosh, we're almost in the middle of it now, because it's already started. The maximum activity is August 12th to 13th. And the way you read those numbers is August 12th at 6 p.m. to August 13th at 6 a.m. And that way, they're talking about it's the night. It's not a 2-day period. It's that night between those 2 days. And they're supposed to be, on the peak, it'd be anywhere between 50 and 75 meteors per hour associated with the comet 109P. The other ones are available. The Geminids, I want to point that out. It's one of the few meteor showers that are associated with an asteroid. It's an asteroid that's like 350 miles in diameter, so it's fairly small, and they can't figure out why it produces as many meteoroids as it does. But the really unique thing about this asteroid is its color. It's blue. And matter of fact, it's the prettiest blue of any asteroid they've seen. So who knew that asteroids could actually be a color? So let's go on. So you might be asking yourselves, where can I get some additional information on meteor showers? Well, I would recommend you go to the American Meteor Society find the meteor tab, and under that there is a great meteor shower calendar. And once again, Perseids is highlighted, and they give you all sorts of information that you can use. For instance, they show you the phase of the moon on the peak night, and again it's August 12th to 13th. And oh my God, that's a weekend. That's from Saturday to Sunday night. So that's pretty interesting. So we have an opportunity to see a large meteor shower under fairly good conditions, except for perhaps the August heat. And then it goes on to say normal rates will seen from a rural location from 50 to 75 meteors. So rural location is code for not in the DFW area. You need to go to a place where you have darker skies to see those meteors at that rate. And it also provides additional information. But this is a great website. It contains quite a bit of info.
You think the dark site's good enough for that?
Yeah, Rising Star? Yeah, definitely. So the question was, is the Rising Star observing area a good place to go to watch the meteor shower? And I wholeheartedly say yes. Matter of fact, that's where I'm going to watch the Perseids this year. Let's go to the next slide. So if you're talking about ideal conditions for a meteor shower, this is what I would recommend. I took this at Star Ranch during at Hercules. And I caught this meteor that hopefully it shows up, but you need dark skies. And the reason for the dark skies is many of the meteors that you're wanting to see are faint. So you need a dark background to pull out those in the sky. What you see here is a couple of nearby cities along the interstate, and that's degrading our skies near the horizon. But if you can get to a place where there are dark skies, that's where you need to go. You also need cloudless, smokeless skies. That used to be just cloudless skies, but with the forest fires that we've been having, I've added smokeless. However, if there are clouds in the sky, I would still go. If it's partly cloudy, I think that would make a unique opportunity to see meteors come and go behind the clouds. I think it would just be a different way of experiencing it. New moon would be the best when there's no interference or no moonlight to contend with. And then you need pleasant weather conditions, moderate temperatures, low humidity, and a slight breeze. That's just for creature comforts. Okay? And so the first thing you need to do is decide where you're going to go to observe the meteor showers. There's quite a few places in and around or outside the DFW area, as well as out at Rising Star. Keep track of the weather forecasts. Partly cloudy skies are okay, but if there are thunderstorms that are going to roll in, probably not. Probably don't want to make that investment. Be sure you know where the radiant is so you can track that in the sky. So you can be aware of where the meteors will be coming from. Then gather your equipment, chairs, blankets, coolers, things that you can use to make it through the night. And for me, I like the gravity chair, anti-gravity chairs that you can lean back. You need something that can support your head so you can look up. And then decide what snacks that you can and beverages you'll want to bring along for that night. Okay, so in terms of potential locations, Rising Star Observatory, I was actually paid to say that, but I think that is a good place to go. Any of the state parks surrounding the DFW area would also be good. I just listed a few of them there. And a federal grasslands, the LBJ National Grasslands would be a good place to go as well. But probably not your backyard if you live in the DFW area. And then we got the night of the meteor showers. So you need to dedicate the entire night to observing meteors. There are long periods of dead time, especially in the early evening, and you're tempted to look through your telescope or check your emails on your phone, but you're going to miss the meteors when they do come. You need to be aware that you just need to be watching the night sky. What I recommend, if you're not up on all the constellations, identifying all the constellations, is do a little bit of homework on the dim constellations that you can't see from a partially dark sky site, and go out there and find them because now you're looking at the sky and you'll see the meteors. That way you can improve your understanding of constellations, plus stay in tune to the meteors that might come through. And exercise patience, get through those long dry spells, because once the meteor shower starts, it's pretty exciting. The show really starts after midnight, so you got to make a night of it. And I made the mistake one shower and said, okay, I'm done. It's after midnight, I'm working on 2, I'm going to go home, drive home and go to bed. And I miss the peak, because the peaks usually happen after 2 a.m. Go ahead and spend the entire night out there and enjoy the show. And then be sure to scan the entire sky. You'll see meteors along the horizon, you'll see meteors at the zenith, and everywhere in between. And you have to look left, right, and even behind you. And it's good that you can do this as a team, and that way you can shout out to each other where to look. That never works, but at least people are participating, okay? So once that happens, the possible outcome is you'll be looking up and there is a bright meteor just passing right through your field of view. And that's what you're after, because you want to see a meteor that looks fantastic. Now this is, of course, this is a picture, and it's pulled in or caught or image quite a few more stars than you can see with your eyes, but it's still very exciting when you see a meteor of this size. And it's not unusual to see short meteors and long meteors. And so, and you'll probably see those either in singles or multiples. Next slide. There's another single, as this photographer caught it as it came through. Let's move on. And then this is a double. Those that you can make out, Orion's in the middle, there's a meteor above it and a meteor below it. And that's a great shot. A few years back, I was at Star Ranch, and Pegasus was about 45 degrees, and one fireball came through and just went right through the middle of it. And as we were oohing and ahhing, another one came in just behind it. And we thought, oh, this is great. And then another one, a third one came in. So we thought, okay, 4 and 5 are right behind. They never came. But there were 3 just fireballs right behind each other. And Pegasus was just right there, so it was very exciting. It was awesome, as I say. Or, and this is a composite picture taken during the Perseids in Huntsville, Alabama. But this is one of those all-sky cameras, and they just caught many meteors that night, which I think is pretty impressive. But this would be nice if you were to go out there and see this many over a 6 to 8 hour period. And then if you're really lucky, you can experience a meteor storm. Now, we're not talking 50 to 75 meteors per hour. We're talking 100,000 meteors per hour. But in this particular case, they only saw 35,000 meteors in 20 minutes. But this is the 1966 meteor storm that people saw from coast to coast in the United States. And I've had several older friends that told me about this storm, and I didn't believe them. It was just too hard for me to understand until I came across Scott Morell's picture with using film and a 50 millimeter lens. He caught this in a tracking mount. He caught this event at the University of New Mexico's observatory, which on film, which I just think is totally remarkable. And to be out there with these meteors just coming by would just be awesome, be tremendous. The Leonids reappear, the meteor, excuse me, there's a chance for the meteor storm to happen every 33 years. But the people that know these things have looked several for meteoroid groupings, and they don't see anything in our path until 2099. So it's a ways out there. But the meteoroid's peak is supposed to happen again in 2031. I'll be out there. I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to be out there in case I can see something like this. They also had we also had a meteor storm in 1833, and this is an image that a piece of artwork that somebody created based on results of people who saw it. And they said it was so bright out there that people in their houses came outside because they were awakened by the light. So it just had to be remarkable. And this meteorite was a little bit less than the one we saw in 1966. But this was what I thought was interesting. They had reports that meteors were observed through the rising sun when its brightness caused the meteors to fade from view. I just think that's pretty amazing. Okay, so if you want to change your perspective, you can actually look down and see meteors if you get a ride on the ISS. And initially, I was thinking, is this an illustration or a picture? And I finally found the actual credits, and it's actually a picture, so I thought that was very cool. That was pretty nice. All right, so we're back to the Astronomical League, and lo and behold, they have a meteor observing program. They have 6 levels that you can do. Each level requires you to observe meteors for 6 hours. So you can get through the program after observing 36 hours of meteors. And there's only 2 rules. And I won't go into the details of rule number 1 but you just have to write down your observations. Where did it come from, where it went, what color was it, what time was it, what was the date? And then rule number 2 is turn in your homework. So it really was an easy program to do. You just have to spend either 6 hours or 36 hours collecting data. Okay? So what's next? We've gone through the meteor shower portion of it, but we get into meteorites, the meteoroids that actually make it all the way to the ground. It'd be a good idea to find out how to identify meteorites in the field. They look something like this, but they could look slightly different. And then you also need to learn the proper handling techniques, what to do and more importantly, what not to do, and then whom to contact when you want to report a very, very interesting find. So, and that would be through, you can check with the Meteorological Society, and they keep a list of established meteor collections, and there's several in the DFW area. So next. What I would do next is go to the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. Oh, that's us. Go to our Facebook page, search on meteorite, and the meteorite show for May 15th, 2021 appears. And that was narrated and produced by our own Chris, help me, Wodinski. Thank you. Not even close. But anyway, he does a marvelous job. He walks you through things on meteorites and fills in all the gaps. So I would also do this. I would recommend that you check out that tutorial. Next slide. If you want to see meteorites on display, you can visit the Monig Meteor Gallery on the TCU campus. Oscar Monig collected meteorites throughout his lifetime, and when he got to the end of his lifespan, he started donating them to TCU. And then he also provided some cash so they would build this gallery to house his collection. It's kind of got some wonky gallery hours, Monday through Saturday from 1 to 4, so a 3-hour period, and parking's a mess. So what I would recommend is that you go to their website, check out what they have to say, and then pay attention to where you park, and then you can go to there. But it's a very good meteorite gallery. All right? And then there are 2 references that I've had through my meteoroid astronomy portion. There's this book, the Cambridge Encyclopedia of Meteorites. It's kind of technical, but it's very informative. And then another book that I really liked, it's the Layman's Book to Meteorites. It contains descriptions and stories of large meteorite finds, how people found them, either on purpose or by accident, and it reads well. and then I realized they're written by the same guy, which is kind of interesting. Both books are going to be in the raffle, so if you're interested in meteoroids and your name gets, or your number gets called, you'll have that opportunity to pick up one of the books. Next. And for everybody else, you can get this poster for free by going to the AMS website, go to resources and posters, and you can download a 10 megabyte image that contains all this information about meteor terminology. And it's most of the stuff that we've covered tonight, but it's pretty worthwhile. Next slide. So I did have to use quite a few references to make sure I got my story straight and I wasn't lying to you, so check things out. If you want to learn more about the speed of meteors, which I just thought was fascinating, check out that Science Direct webpage, and then about I don't see it. Oh, Rocket Tech, the 1966 Leonid picture. If you ever want to go back and see that, there's a very good story about Scott Morrell and his taking that picture in 1966. Okay? So the purpose of giving this presentation tonight was because the Perseids is just around the corner. I wanted to pique your interest in the meteor shower. And there's just so many things going for us. We've got good dark sky sites around us. The peak happens on a weekend, which is always good. The moon is up a little bit, but it's not too bad, so moonlight won't be too big of an issue, and it seems like a good thing to prepare for. So I encourage you to review some of the things that we talked about tonight, and I do want to show this clip. So there's different ways that you can take a picture of a meteor. I use a 35 millimeter camera and a wide angle lens, and I just have it take 20-second exposures after each other. And the reason I chose 20 seconds, is because the stars don't move very dramatically, and the pictures look pretty good. If you have the resources, you can get one of these, which is an Oculus all-sky camera. And once you set it up, you can walk away from it, and it takes this image and captures all those meteors. So very good. And this was brought to you by Bill Hall. And I think it's in the raffle too, right?
Negative.
Well, thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? Oh, we got one over here.
Just two comments. When I was doing the Astro League comic, I had a tape recorder with a timestamp on it, and I just loved the ones that I saw. So that makes it easier to jot all your stuff down later. And then the second time when I'm just doing things out there, I got one of those clickers that goes to 1,000.
Okay.
So when I was doing the voice recording, Bruce Collins was next to me, and he did 640 that night. We had a great night.
Wow.
Star Raiders. That was Gemini's.
Okay, fantastic.
Those are two pieces of equipment that makes it fun.
Okay. So it was the voice recorder and a clicker that counts.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Because I've been keeping a learning, when I encounter everything I see, and I'm about 1,100. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Yes, sir.
I actually saw a fireball in 2020. My wife and kids were outside. We took note of exactly, what its posted was over exactly and all. And there's several websites that track exactly where it is, and you can see other people that report it, and they can triangulate where exactly if it potentially hit, where they can actually go find it.
Oh, well, that's
You can report your data. It's kind of fun.
okay. That's interesting. I didn't report my data, but my wife and I were sitting on our porch. And we can see the traffic pattern of DFW come along the south side of DFW. We live a little bit west of town, but we were watching the planes go by. and then there was a light coming right at us, and I thought, what's he doing? This doesn't make any sense. And it kept coming, and looked like it was slowing down, and it was a meteor, and it broke up above my house and kept going, and I thought, I am the only person that saw that. Until 2 days later, somebody had a picture of it, because there are cameras everywhere, and they caught it, and it looked pretty similar to what I saw. So you're right. People know about it. All right, well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Bruce.
Didn't realize I brought so much stuff.
Pardon?
Didn't realize I brought so much stuff.
9-minute and 30-second break. Watch your eyes.
Galaxy. Previously imaged the galaxy in October of 2022 before the supernova exploded. The supernova eventually collapsed in its own gravity and could possibly form like a neutron star, a black hole. Black holes. Used my telescope to take a picture of the supernova that has exploded in the Pinwheel Galaxy. Previously imaged galaxy in October of 2022 before the supernova exploded. The supernova eventually collapsed in its own gravity and could possibly form either a neutron star or a black hole. Black holes. Hey Siri, how far away in light years is the Pinwheel Galaxy?
Here's an answer from NASA.gov. The
Oops.
Okay, that's not how that works.
Well, I do take them apart
We're
eventually.
gonna do them like right now.
There you are, sir.
Only for you more experienced folk.
And then I'll walk out there and sweat it out. They said today was the hottest day so far this year. And I believe
Question was asked how hot today was. Damn hot. We're doing 5 today. 480-8126. 480-8126. It's really scary when the legal beagle wins a prize. Huh? Yeah. That's your fee. And 480-8148. 480-8148. Oh, yeah. I think I nicked it. It's over here. Hang on. 480-8161. 480-8161. Number. Yep.
Yeah.
Pick one.
10 to a pack.
Awesome. 480-81-967. Circus, you can't win.
What?
480-8155. While Bill is up here collecting his prize, I want to make a special announcement. Steve Kennedy is not here, but he has done us proud. Recently won the NASA astrophotography photograph of the day. It was an awesome photo. I don't think it was up here. It was. Yeah, it's just he does some phenomenal work. He's the second one he's won in the last 18 months. So, great job, Steve. Without further ado, he seems stunned, but Mr. Bill Hall. And this isn't The Price is Right.
All right, it's dark time again. All right, we're going to be talking about the things that are going to be happening in the sky for the next month. And our little cover picture here is the Lagoon Nebula from our own Jim Potts. You want to see the front of my face? Oh, okay. All right, next slide. All right, so something that I mentioned last month, Got a couple of bright comets under magnitude 10 in the sky. One of them is 2023 E1, discovered by the Atlas survey. Right now it is currently at magnitude 9.3 in the Draco-Cepheus area, so it's circumpolar, it's up in the sky all the time for quite a while now. And then there's 2021 T4 Lemon that's magnitude 9.8 in the Auriga Cetus area. I think that's to the, that's this something that comes up later in the night. Go back a second. I want to say something about Atlas because it kind of tickled me. So like Atlas, anybody knows what Atlas is? It's a sky survey. There are lots of sky surveys. Some look for supernovas and some look for near-Earth objects, looking for doomsday stuff. And I thought it was really funny because Atlas, it's like, okay, I'm looking for something, nice doomsday name for my sky survey. So I'm looking for near-Earth objects. And this, let me see, Assassin's taken. So, I'm going to look for something else. And Atlas is asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system. So sleep well tonight, knowing that Atlas is going to give us our last alert when they see the planet killer. So next slide. 50 years ago on Thursday, we had a landing. This was Apollo 11. It was our first landing on the moon. Huh? Because I made a mistake. It's supposed to say July. Good eye. Fact checker. Do you win? Yeah, you can have my raffle tickets. Wow, good catch. Okay. Anyway, 54 years ago. This was actually taken by Michael Collins, as this was about to, it was in orbit. It was right before it was going to go into descent. So it's a pretty cool shot. I'm always surprised when I see these old pictures from the late 60s, and it's like, well, they had some pretty high definition, film. Next slide. Okay, so it's kind of a run of meteor showers. There's the Delta Aquarids meteor shower. This is born from comet 96P Machos. And it's not too heavy of a meteor shower, but it's notable enough to mention. About 15 to 20 zenithal hourly rate. And it gets mixed in with the Perseids. So the Perseids is already underway. And so when you watch the Perseids in mid-August, you'll probably end up seeing some Delta Aquarids. So the radiant for the Delta Aquarid is right here. It's to the south. Capricorn's right after Sagittarius, so it's to the south here, kind of southeast. Next slide. On our least favorite moon phase, poor thing. So we got a Perseid meteor in the frame here, but we've got full moon on August 1st, so this will pass soon enough for some very good news for the Perseids. So we got Mercury in the evening. It's going to be going through. It's hitting the greatest eastern elongation, so that means that it's going to be high in the west. Not too favorable this time around. It's actually it's actually much higher in the southern hemisphere. But in the northern hemisphere here, it'll probably be at its peak on August 1st. It'll be about 12.5 degrees in the sky at very highest when it's visible. Next slide. So we've got the Moon-Saturn conjunction. So for everybody that kind of likes the cool, bright things like close to each other in the sky. We got that coming up on August 3rd. It's Moon and Saturn is actually only going to be separated by about 2¼ degrees, and this is actually a picture of the Moon and Mars conjunction that happened in October 2020, and John McCrae took this picture. So that's Mars up there, and you know what that is. But August 3rd is actually a special day for me. In 1999, I was in a crowded restaurant with my wife, her favorite restaurant, and I got down on my knee and pulled a ring case out of the little basket of bread on the table. There's these rose petals sticking out of it. She's like, "There's not bread in there, is there?" And I'm like, "Nope." Next slide. All right, so here's an interesting one. So I mentioned something about planet killers. By, rough definition, what near-Earth object hunters in the scientific world call planet killers are asteroids that are, around 1,000 kilometers in diameter or larger. And this probably fits the bill. We're talking about anywhere from 790 to 1.7 kilometers here in diameter. And it's called asteroid 154244, or 2002 KL6. And on August 5th, it's brightest at magnitude 14, but if you're into imaging, then it's kind of a nice size asteroid to maybe capture. And if it's in a really, really dark sky and you got a pretty, got a Dob or something with you that you can pick up magnitude 14, you're good. Where I got some really interesting information is this astro.nl /bright neos. And actually, this is a nice chart. It's always kept up to date. This guy he's on this. It's like that Aerith guy in Japan with comets. Well, this guy is all about asteroids, amongst other things. But you're looking for near-Earth objects that are coming past the Earth and what their magnitudes are. The bright ones, it's a really nice chart for that. So it's a nice reference if you want to look at that. And this right here is actually an Arecibo image of this. It's actually this this is like the face that's actually reflecting light, and it's like this big mountain-sized thing. So giant rock and sky, doomsday rock. Next slide. Now we have our Perseids. It's a theme. So we got the Perseids, like it's been said before. It is the night of the 12th through the early morning of the 13th. 26-day-old moon, 7.6 illuminated waning crescent moon that rises at 4:05 a.m. So what's a real treat is last year was a bust. I mean, it was like full moon. I don't even know if there were clouds or not. It was just a bust. It's actually been that way for like a couple of years, I think. But this year, we got ourselves a treat. And the cool thing is that if you're up all night long to catch those early morning meteors, that you get the bonus of watching this beautiful crescent moon rise from the east. So it's pretty cool. Next slide. And then the new moon on Wednesday, August 16th. Next slide. So, hello. So it's that time of year again when we've got Sagittarius in our night sky. So looking towards Sagittarius is looking towards the center of our galaxy. And though we can't actually see the center of our galaxy, we're seeing the density that's just packed with objects. And you got a lot of the objects listed right here. A lot of this stuff's really bright stuff in the telescope and even binoculars. You can scope that whole area in binoculars and see all sorts of goodies in there. And the picture I wanted to feature here, this is actually the Trifid Nebula, and this is our very own Michael Tier's first light in his entrance into astrophotography. So good job. Next slide. And this is the constellation. I was actually going to see if anybody could guess, because, you know, there's this strip of constellations. And so this is Vulpecula. This is the fox. The genitive name for this is Vulpeculae, and IAU abbreviations VUL for all star designations and such. It's 4 stars with known planets. There's one named star, and that's Answer, and we're going to get back to Answer in a second. There's one Messier object. There's also a Caldwell object that's really not even of note. This constellation was introduced by Johannes Hevelius in 1687 in his, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of his atlas here, but it's got uranography in it, so that's enough. It's an atlas. So the story goes here that you know, the original name of the constellation was Vulpecula et Answer. So it's little fox and goose. And so we have the little fox here, and in its mouth is the goose. And what he's doing is he is carrying carrying the goose in his mouth to deliver to the dog that guards the gates of hell. I can't make this stuff up. So that's the story about this, and it's a mythological thing. And in the 1600s, Hevelius was actually one of the astronomers that was like, hey, you know something? The Greeks missed this little space up here, these stars that aren't accounted for with ancient constellations. So I'm going to make some up. And he actually still has a handful of them still in the books out of the modern 88. Vulpecula being one of them. They actually split the constellation at one point into the fox and the goose. So there's actually a goose constellation, and then they dropped the goose, or they put it back together, and then they stopped talking about the goose altogether. And we don't know about the dog in hell, and it's just the fox now. The end. Next slide. So this is the very first pulsar ever discovered. So it's PSR B1919 plus 21. Those figures actually go with, talk about coordinates where the star is. But it's the very first pulsar discovered. The discoverers, it was somebody that was actually writing their thesis and her professor. And they discovered this thing that was pulsing at 1.1 1/3 second pulses. And originally, before they realized and figured out what it was, or at least that, you know, it was a star, they were thinking that maybe they found signals from another civilization. So I guess that was a nice freak out moment for them there. And next slide. I don't know if any of you guys are fans of Joy Division, but they're awful. It's like The Cure if they died and kept playing music. It's the most awful new wave, soulless, just don't. But why I'm bringing up this terrible band is that they actually used it for a cover of their album. This right here is actually the graph of the signal from that first pulsar. So, fun fact. Seriously, don't look up Joy Division, you'll regret it. Next slide. So there's Brocchi's cluster. So this is also called the coat hanger. And all the way through the 20th century, they thought that this was stars that were gravitationally associated with each other. And they're not. So we're talking about all the way through the 20th century. They're thinking this is actually like, they even named it Colander 399s. It's in the Colander catalog. Next slide. And it turns out they're not physically associated with each other. It's just this, you know, pretty array of stars that looks like an upside down coat hanger. The end. Next slide. Messier 27. So this is the Dumbbell Nebula. This is the big thing that's in Vulpecula. And it was discovered by Charles Messier. John Herschel, who is William Herschel's son, decided that it looked like a dumbbell in his telescope, so he is actually the one that coined the name. And next slide. So here's a nice deep picture of it. That's a really good picture. Who's that? Oh, that's me. Yeah. So here's my picture of the Dumbbell Nebula. This is this is a nice deep shot. So you're actually seeing stuff outside of here. It actually looks like a giant butterfly. But it's really big in the eyepiece, and it's really bright in the eyepiece. It's a nice object to look at. Next slide. So there's NGC 7052. So this is an elliptical galaxy. It's not really very remarkable, as elliptical galaxies normally are. But if you go to the next slide here, so that's the elliptical, but what Hubble did was they directly imaged, next slide, this dust cloud. This is a disk that is orbiting around its central black hole. And this was imaged directly by the Hubble. So it's kind of a cool little nugget that I found hiding in the Fox here. Next slide. So we've got an emission nebula, also known as Sharpless 286. It's NGC 6820, and it's a kind of a fun thing here because you've got two objects out of the new general catalog. One of them is an emission nebula, and it surrounds an open star cluster right in the middle of it. NGC 6823. Next slide. And it's kind of dim. It's a magnitude of 15, but it's huge, and it's just this big hydrogen complex that's going on. That's got this little cluster here of stars all nestled into it. So it's kind of neat. Next slide. So there's a great listing of the 24 objects that are the deep sky objects in Vulpecula. I go to the skylive.com here for references to this and references to things that I want to know about stuff in constellations. It's actually really that, and the constellation-guide.com, really nicely navigatable websites. Also, you look up Johannes Hevelius. He actually did work with his wife, so he and his wife were both into the astronomy thing. If you look him up, you'll actually be really surprised and see a lot of pictures of things that he did that is like, oh, that was that guy. It's actually really cool stuff, his career as an astronomer. It's kind of worthy looking up there, so you want to check that out. Next slide. And that's it. So this image right here is actually the Iris Nebula, and it was taken by Christopher Ashford. He's a member of our club here, and keep looking up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Cover your eyes. Everybody awake now? Okay. Thank you very much, Bill. As always, an outstanding presentation. So now we're going to get into the business part of the meeting. And Patrick, where are you, big guy? Or if you can project from there, I don't care. Patrick is going to talk to us briefly about our outreach.
All right, thanks. Never know where to stand. All right, before I get on to our star parties, which we don't really have a whole lot between now and the next meeting, I was forward a email John Jeromany got from the Night Sky Network, and for reporting all our outreach events, they do take note of that, and apparently we have won the Night Sky Network Quarterly Prize, along with a few other clubs, so not sure what to expect in it, but they said it's going to be an eclipse party pack, a big box of eclipse materials, including glasses, activities, and more. So what all that means, we'll know when I get it. But thank you to everybody who has helped out for these, and let's just keep going. So, okay. All right, as you can see, we've got about 3 star parties here coming up between the next meeting. The first one is actually a summer camp. It's kind of in the morning, 11 to 12 a.m. They just need somebody to come just talk general astronomy with the students, and I'll take care of that. If anybody's got any stuff that would be helpful for that, let me know. That would be great. I'll have the solar scope. Then there's an Alzheimer's group, like a star party at Tandy Hills on the 3rd. I will get more, or 5th. I will send out more information when I get that. And then the Dinosaur Valley Star Party will be August 12th, which just happens to be the night of the Perseid, so that's a nice little bonus there. I'll post these on the e-groups as we get closer. If you want to help out, let me know, or just show up. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a thankless job, really, to manage all of our events. We do a lot. We get a lot scheduled, and he does an outstanding job. So I'm going to ask Bruce to give us our not outreach report, but a report about things going on at Rising Star.
Thank you. All right, so we have some good news. First slide, next slide. We now have a lawn tractor for use out at Rising Star. It's a 2006 John Deere X300 lawn tractor. We're very happy to have it. We don't have to cart on a trailer, lawn tractors back and forth. That was a pain. But thanks to the executive board, they approved $600 to purchase a lawn tractor, and Stu Johnston and I will be delivering it on the 25th of this month. Next slide.
Where's it going to stay?
Where is it going to stay?
Where are we going to put it?
It's going to be under a lawnmower cover until we get a storage building. So a few more months is what I'm thinking, and then we'll get it into a building. Into a building. Great. I have been sending out these field condition reports, and this is from the mowing we accomplished back in earlier this month in July. And I want to mention, it's kind of hard to see with the lights on, but there's a strip of land that we haven't mowed yet this year. It's maybe 50 yards on the eastern side, 50 feet of real estate along the eastern fence, and we're going to start trimming that back. One of the reasons why we haven't made any attempt to trim it is the area contains cactus, so we have to manage the cactus or it'll grow back, and it also contains small mesquite trees, and we don't want to run over the small mesquite trees and damage the lawnmower. So we avoided that area and groomed the other part of the field. I think we have plenty of room for the number of people that have visited, so I think we're in good shape there. We're also keeping the grass cut back along the entrance, and now with this tractor, we could widen that path through the woods, so two cars can pass side by side. We're keeping our grass pretty short, but it's pretty dry out there, as you can might imagine. In late June, the county passed a burn ban, and then a judge revoked it in the first part of July, but the conditions remain the same. It's dry out there. Be careful if you have any open flames. If you do smoke out there, make sure your butts are out, because the last thing we want to do is get a fire going. But everything so far has been pretty good. I only picked up a couple of butts since I've been out there over the last 6 months, so I've been pretty impressed. We're keeping the field fairly picked up, no trash, so I think we're doing pretty good out there. People are taking out their trash when they need be. That's my last slide, but I did want to mention that in terms of the container or the storage building, whatever we're going to call it, we're starting to collect specifications that we want. So once we have our specs, we'll then be able to figure out what will meet those specs, whether it's a cargo container or a metal building or just whatever, and we'll then size it appropriately. So we're trying to fit the pieces to the puzzles, but first we're trying to identify what the pieces look like. That's it. Yep.
Where are we at on the fence?
So we've got some property line issues to resolve, and the good news is we have 2 real estate attorneys that are members of the club, and at least one of them has stepped up to say I can handle this and I can figure that out. And we are in the process of a letter writing campaign, and once we figure out what the content of that letter is, we will share it with others and then send it off to our neighbor and get that going. If all works well, and we should have the letter out fairly soon, and then depending upon how quickly they respond to our issues in the letter, and then we can move forward with the fence. The nice thing about Stuart, he knows how to work around this issue, and it's kind of fun. Being a real estate attorney, he brings good things to the table. Any other questions? Oh, yes, sir.
Anybody thought about taking a picture so we can get the rising star in distillery and landscape? Know what I'm talking about?
From a drone, for instance? From a drone, take a picture from a drone?
If you take a picture, go 360.
Oh.
And you can put it in stellarium, so when you go out, you can see where the trees are. And
Oh.
actually-
Oh.
Horizon? I'll do
No,
that.
don't be precise, don't let someone do that in shot.
Yeah, no, I can do that next time I'm out there.
That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be sharp. Yep.
Yeah. I do that for Nina. It's the same process for Stellarium. So.
Good. Hope to see you out there at Rising Star real soon, and sign the logbook. That's my commercial.
Thank you, Bruce. And the issue with the property lines, basically, part of the property is being used by a neighbor, but the big thing we're trying to do is get our neighbors to help pay for the fencing. So if they do, that's great. If they don't, they don't. And so that's what we're trying really to do, is trying to save some money. I got several announcements. Tom Roth is not here. There's nothing really going on at Palo Pinto. Is George Lutch online? Okay. So just to let you know what's going on with the website, some of us have been we've ported the website over to Google. We've done some testing, and we found some issues in both sites where links are broken on both sides. So we're working to get that all sorted out and then get off of the, it's a weird name, hosting facility, but anyway, we're trying to get off that and get everything onto the Google Workspace. So I don't know when that's going to be done, but it's an ongoing project. Okay, so I have some announcements to make. Some exciting news. We've been partnering with the Thompson Observatory for about the last 6, 7, 8 months. And we came to an agreement where on the 4th Saturday, starting this Saturday, our club, can use the Thompson Observatory as our own. So that begins this weekend. I'll get an email out tomorrow. Some basic ground rules, a max of 50 members. And we'll make a Google form for sign up going forward. And it'll be first come, first serve. And a few of us are going to meet with Jerry Becker to get a few things organized to make it a little more structured going forward, and to work on some, I don't want to say partnership agreement because that's too complicated, but rules of the road for them to allow us on their property and for us to allow them on ours. So I think that's pretty exciting. I know Christian's been out there. It's Bortle 4, but hey, if you've seen pictures of my Bortle nuclear zone in my front yard, you'll take Bortle 4 any day. And it's 40 minutes away from my home in the mid-cities. It's an easy drive. The people are very nice out there, and it's in civilization still, but it's a pretty cool place. They have a 10-inch TMB refractor in a dome, and they have lots of other gear in a roll-off. So that's really cool. There's been some discussion or emailing about camping out at Rising Star. As most of you are aware, and the master plan calls for basically 20 by 40 foot areas, individual observing areas. And so you can set up in there, you can set up a tent in there. Honestly, when I observe or when I image, I bring a cot, I get it set up, I get my train going, and I just go to sleep on my cot under the stars. It's a great way to watch the meteors fly by, or, you know, Elon Musk's meteors when they come across. So, you know, just be courteous with your neighbors, and that'll work out. We are slowly working on how we're going to allow RVs and vehicles like that out there. It's not as easy as I thought, for sure. Let's see. I want to talk about the HEB School District. They are still, early June, we went out to 4 schools in the district and did a solar program. We had, I think, close to 400 kids in 4 different schools and 50 teachers and administrators, including the superintendent of the school district. They are still talking about it, really excited. They would like us to come out in October and do a star party at Pennington Field on a Saturday. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe on the annular solar event, mainly because I'm not going to be in town. So, but anyway, so we're trying to get that sorted out. The administrator that I work with is Dr. Laura Allen, and she's telling me that they may have as many as 50 students that want to join the club. So that's pretty exciting. I told John that earlier today, and his fingers went numb. So there's a lot of opportunity there. August the 18th to the 20th is our annual trip to 3RF. Michelle Thiessen is organizing that and working to get that organized. If you've never been to 3RF, it is a wonderful facility. It is very cool. The people up there are great. And if you really want to see me scared, because I'm an approved person to run the 15-inch refractor, and as that thing starts to swing by the pier, my eyes get really, really big. So anyway, that'll be a cool event. And there's one other thing. Yes, the second annual open house and Messier Marathon. We're looking to do that in March this year on the new moon. So want to start getting that ready early. Learned a lot of lessons from the first one, so I think this next time around ought to go a little easier. And lastly, two other things, I promise. I really want to start a youth program. When I first joined the club many years ago, my son and I joined, and there was a very good youth program then. We learned how to build a telescope. We just did a lot of things together. It was great. I want to work on building a youth program. So if there are any people that are interested in help driving that, I know Si's mentioned it, Christian's mentioned it. I'd like to get going on that. I would like to be able to announce through our immense social media sometime in September, October timeframe that we've got one. I think it'll be a draw. And I thought it was a great thing to have. And lastly, last announcement is this is a personal lesson learned from last year. Christmas party will be Saturday, the 2nd of December. Okay, and so at first I thought it would be the next weekend because I thought the 2nd was too close to Thanksgiving, but there are 5 Thursdays in November. So Saturday the 2nd, probably at the same spot. And that's all I've got announcement-wise. Mr. John Geronimi, he's been chomping at the bit to give the financial report. I'm sorry? Okay, hang on. We'll get to you. John handles the money, therefore he has more clout.
There you go. Yes, not for long. There it is. Can you make that bigger? There you go. Whee! Okay, so I think we had talked about before our savings account. We've discontinued using that. It requires a $10,000 minimum. So that's sort of a lot of money tied up not doing anything. And what we're going to do now is use our checking account and separate the project funds from the general funds through spreadsheets. And since all of the projects have to be approved by the executive board with minutes indicating said expenditures, we shouldn't have a problem with that. The renewals process ends after this meeting, and at that time, we'll lose 33 people. However, as bad as that sounds, it's not as bad as it's been in prior years. I think 2021 or 2022, we lost 45. So not only are we increasing our overall membership, but we're keeping more of those members. So bring it on down, please. Yes, there it is right there. So that 35 unpaid was changed to 32 during the meeting. Thank you very much for that. Go on down. And here is an example. This is not, since the members have not been removed yet, the cliff that's referenced there is a little artificial, but it's very close to accurate. But you could see where the cliff put us last year. So it's, I thought that was pretty major accomplishment for all of us. Keep going, thank you. And just statistically looking at where the money came from, we're still picking up Zelle. Last year, I think, was maybe 20. Year before that was maybe 5. So we're really picking up that. It's easy. It doesn't cost the group anything. It doesn't cost the member anything. I did have one person send cash. That was unusual. And I don't think I've seen one of those in the mail before. But there you have it. That's the numbers for all of that. The company that Robert was trying to think about is Turbify. That's the company that took over after Verizon left, after Yahoo Business left. So I think this is the 3rd or 4th vendor in the last 4 years. And that's where we're at right now. Any questions?
I got one. If I've got an individual membership and I kind of want to migrate it, like include my family, is that possible?
Absolutely.
And how, is that just something I get with you on?
Yeah, we can do it several ways, but my suggestion would just be pay the $10 and you be there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, John, sorry. I probably wouldn't. I'm sorry about all the nickels that I mailed to you. Probably could have used a thicker envelope at least. Sorry about that. So has anybody heard of Alyssa Pagan? If you've seen a NOVA episode recently about the James Webb Telescope, she was actually on there. I met her at NEAF this year, and she is on the team of image processors for the James Webb Telescope. And I have her doing the presentation next month. So you definitely want to be here for that. It's very cool.
Is she going to be here or remote? Thanks, Bill. Awesome.
A quick one here. Okay, down to last minute. Am I standing in the right spot there, Chris? All right. My name is Juan Martinez, along with Chris Modnitsky, your Eclipse committee. He's waving into the camera there. Let's see. So as part of our ongoing outreach, we've been slowly ramping up and advertising the upcoming eclipse. To date, we've given out over 1,000. I think we're closer to 1,200 of those cardboard eclipse glasses. And to make sure we even take care of our own, we've got some goodies in the back there for you. All members will get 5 free sets of glasses with additional ones available for purchase, $1 a piece. A little modest fundraiser. Also available for sale are some Thousand Oaks solar light filter films. And that's the high-end premium stuff. It's real steel. We got bulk pricing as well, so about maybe half or 1/3 price of retail. So come on back, check it out. And for those that could not make the meeting tonight, we'll be here. Find us at any of the upcoming meetings or the monthly Tandy Hills, Dino Valley. Got a question?
No, I got a bunch of that, you're gonna make a solar filter?
Absolutely, yes.
A bunch of that cloth, I got
Oh, yes, the sun funnel.
pieces of funnel, one by one.
Outstanding. Yes, so we'll talk. Well, be on the lookout for some upcoming, we call them filter workshops. A quick note about, so we have 3 sizes of that filter film, 4x4, 4-inch by 4-inch, 6x6, and 12x12. Check the e-group for the pricing schedules there. A note about the large ones, the 12-inch size. If you're doing front aperture, full aperture coverage, It's not advisable to go beyond, say, 6-inch. Not so much a safety issue. Well, there is a safety issue. You can get too much energy collection if you're going to the larger reflectors. But more importantly, if you get anything beyond 4 to 6 inches, number one, the image gets really bright. Number two, all that internal energy in your OTA builds up thermals. And for those that have learned, viewing the sun is very different than viewing night sky. Aperture is not king. You become more vulnerable to atmospheric effects. So stay tuned. Got a lot of exciting things. So if you didn't catch us tonight, catch us at the upcoming events. Let's see. I don't want to rant too much. Chris, if you had any words, I did want to share a couple of key schedule items. Let's see. If anybody who wants to get in on the action, August 12th, that meteor shower evening, in our collaboration with our sibling astronomy clubs with CTAS, Central Texas Astronomical Society, and the SAAA, San Antonio Astronomical Society, down in the hill country, all of those state parks, they've all ramped up. They're all ready to go. We've actually been invited to Los Maples State Park, August 12th. They have an event. They are celebrating the Texas State Park's centennial, 100 years, and they're calling it Maples and Meteors. I know that's also double dips the same night that we have Dino Valley, so both great dark sights to watch that meteor shower. From the ASP, the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, the folks that brought us the Solar System Ambassadors Program with our very own Sarah Twido. And let's see, now the Eclipse Ambassadors Program, both Chris and myself are current recruits, representatives. They are still actively recruiting, looking to pair up partnerships of amateur astronomers with undergrad students. It's a really neat program. And finally, fast forward, in planning for the eclipse, the end of September, September 29th and 30th, the AAS, all these acronyms, the American Astronomical Society, they've got a subset of seminars with eclipse planning workshops. They've got these task forces. Last month, they had a seminar in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So at the end of next month, I'm sorry, not August, September, end of September, they'll have a repeat down in San Antonio and also available on Skype or Zoom. It's a registration event, but a lot of very valuable information, exciting stuff. That's all we have for tonight. Come on back, check us out. And for those that missed us, we do honor the buddy system. If you know somebody that can pick up goodies on your behalf, we'll honor that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Oh, we got an Amber Alert.
Is it heat or is it amber?
Okay. Did I hear a motion for the World of Beer? Okay. Guys, thanks very much for attending. We'll see you next month. And hopefully we get plenty of clear skies between now and then. Thanks, everybody.